the thing is, what is the use of technology to shape a society? It's not necessarily a sophisticated algorithm, is it?
Well, there's lots of subtleties to it. That's a very broad question, but there's lots of individual, I know, there's just lots of individual elements to that, depending on how you're looking at what you're looking at. If you look at, for instance, a Google or a Facebook, where you have massive influence over people and groups of people around the world. You've got the head of Google, a man by the name of Eric Schmidt. Actually, he's the chairman now of Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google. But Eric Schmidt is a member of the Trilateral Commission, I might add. He's very much a technocrat in the sense that he feels like he knows better how to run the world than anybody else. Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook pretty much has the same idea. Now, they're not necessarily blood brothers, right? But they both have the same idea that because they're so steeped in technology, that they know better how to run the world than anybody else. So when they get massive power at their fingertips, 10 years ago, Eric Schmidt and the other, the founders of Google had nothing, or 15 years ago, they had nothing. They had no power, they had no influence whatsoever, but now they do it. It came into their hands, and it gets skewed to their own belief system. It almost, I guess you'd almost have to say it's inevitable that it would, but this is what's happened. So if somebody like an Eric Schmidt doesn't want to favor a particular group of people on the internet, like maybe it's a certain website, like mine, Technocracy.news, that they don't want to get good placement in the search engines like everybody else, or let's say equal treatment. All it takes is just basically a cross-eyed stare at the algorithm, and all of a sudden, I'm 5 pages down the list. And everybody else and their brother is above me, and, I'll never get seen. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not there. It just means I've been taken out of preference. This kind of manipulation on Google and other search engines has been going on for a long time, and they've been caught red-handed doing it. And they say, oh, well, we're sorry. Well, we'll correct that. Sure, right. Sure you will. Facebook has been nailed with the same thing, doing the same thing. It's a little bit different because they're not a search engine, but when somebody posts an article on Facebook, you want all your friends to see it. So it has to appear in your friend's newsfeed on Facebook. So the algorithms that determine what gets placed on whose feed can very easily just be tweaked ever so slightly, so that maybe 3 days ago, your feed might have gotten, say, 500 views. But after the little tweak, you look at it and you find out, gee, I only got 200 views. Well, what happened to the other 300 people? Well, they just didn't see it. It wasn't deleted, but it was just suppressed. It's just put down the list and nobody would see it. This kind of censorship is going on a regular basis, John. And people are getting censored and tagged. If they are repeat offenders, they get special treatment. You have artificial intelligence programs being applied now to like in YouTube settings where they analyze graphics and pictures and stuff that's posted, whether it be for copyright infringement or pornography or other types of things. You say, well, I'm all for censoring pornography. Well, in a sense, I'd hope you are. But you see, if they can censor something like pornography, they can also censor something like political, discourse. And if they don't like the way somebody's talking about something, they could just pull their account. Click, you're gone. And then you go, but I protest. And you find out there's nobody to protest to because you can't talk to a real person and, they're just going to ignore you. But this is definitely shaping the mindset, the psyche, if you will, of the public. They're molding it. It's propaganda 101, really is. They wrote about all this kind of stuff 50 years ago. Now they're masters at it.
So, it's almost like I need, in the minds of some people, means you owe me. And in the same way, I don't understand means this must not be worth understanding. And I just think that what they're doing with all this manipulation is infusing doubt into people that they can trust anything that they've, well, even in the short history of things, have historically trusted. Like their friends. Facebook just started out to be it got a little boring there for a while. People were talking about what they're cooking, and look at this cake that I made and stuff like this. It's like, yeah, okay. It's almost like they were just hanging out in the neighborhood together. But over the past 3 to 5 years, it's gotten to be much more serious than that. Patrick, what I'm getting at is this. What it appears that those who would control us, the MK Ultra people, the COINTELPRO people, what they failed to accomplish in the late 40s, say in the 20 years between 1945 and 1965, they are accomplishing it through social media. And I would think that would be a key part of the technocracy agenda. But if I'm out to lunch on this, I want you to sing out and tell me, you're barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're out to lunch on it, John. You've seen the pictures of the Air Force transport planes and fighter planes and stuff that have defense systems when an enemy is trying to shoot a heat-seeking missile at these airplanes. They see the missile coming, and they emit all these little small flares out the bay of the airplane or whatever, and it looks like a fireworks show almost. You get all these little. It's like a sparkler went off in the sky.
Yep.
And the idea is to confuse the missile. The heat-seeking missile is coming, so it sees all these flares ahead and goes, "Holy mackerel! I don't know what to do." And so it starts to corkscrew, and it goes chasing after one of the flares instead of the airplane.
Makes it crazy.
Well, that makes you crazy, and that's a great picture in my mind of what's been going on for at least the 40 years that I've been studying globalization. These people are masters at creating this flack that does nothing more than distract everybody from the real target, which was the airplane in the first place. I'm not saying shoot down our own airplanes, by the way, but you get my point of the story.
Sure.
We need to focus on the original target and cut through the flack to find out what's really going on, what's really important. And whenever something important is going on, behind the scenes that they kind of don't want you to know about and see what they're doing, because if you did, they knew you would have, freak out. Well, all they do is they pull a few levers and they send out all this flack to get everybody just going crazy over something else. And flat earthers are an expression of that. There's other groups, it's not just them. There's other groups that do the very same thing. They're trolls. And they go out and they attack people on the internet. They attack them in forums. They attack them on social media. Anywhere they can get in, they make trouble. And they're just so much flack, hiding and disguising the real target that's cruising on down the road. And I think we see this all the time. For instance, I'll just give you an example. The Democrats have finally figured out that they're not going to get back into power. They lost the presidency. They've lost the Senate and the House. Their party's in shambles, and they're probably not going to get back in. I think they have a very good idea that that's the case. But you've got master strategists like John Podesta, who was Hillary Clinton's campaign manager. They're sitting behind the scenes saying, okay, now what can we do next? How can we turn the situation around? They've got a strategy. They don't just bumble around day and night. They've got a strategy. So I'll bet you the next strategy that they're going to come up with is that democracy is completely broken, and we need a brand new type of political system in America. Let's call it technocracy.
You bet.
And let's just change the whole system. We can't get back into the old system, so screw it. Let's go into the new system and start a brand new one like technocracy. So while they may have identified the target, all of a sudden you're going to see a rash of this flack being sprayed all over the landscape. Things like Russia hacking the DNC, right?
Yeah.
and Clapper going to a hearing explaining what happened with all the Russian, supposed hacking and the offensive stuff they did to us, and why shouldn't we, in a sense, why shouldn't we go bomb the crud out of them for it? All this crazy talk. All of a sudden, everybody's looking at that, and they're missing what's going on. They're missing the real strategy. And for instance, you cannot solve this Russian hacking thing. You can say, well, Assange says one thing, Clapper says another, the FBI says something, or maybe they all agree that this is going to be that way. And then you have every Tom, Dick, and Harry on the internet that's just putting forth his own, pet theory and opinion on what happened. But in the bottom line of it, you can't ever solve it. It's completely unsolvable. It's just like the flak that comes out of the airplane. Eventually, it burns out and falls to the ground like spent fireworks. That's what's going to happen with this. So whole argument is going to go away, and then people are going to look around the landscape and see what they really intended to do in the first place. This is the way these people have moved forward for decades, John.